Life is precious. I think we would all agree. But often we find that we take the very things that we do every day in life for granted until something happens in a blink of an eye. Hello, I'm Tom Russo, and this is In a Blink of an Eye, where we discuss stories from ordinary people whose lives are changed in an instant and how they overcame through faith, courage, and determination. Join me on this podcast for uplifting stories of how people face various challenges and learn to not only survive, but thrive. In a Blink of an Eye is sponsored by TradingCardsMarketplace.com. Discover, connect, collect. That's TradingCardsMarketplace.com. Now, I've got to tell you, folks, I am so tickled and honored to have my guest with us today. Wynette Jameson was my journalism teacher in high school, and she looks younger than me.
Oh,
So, uh, so I am thrilled to have her with me. She was a big part of me growing up, a big part of inspiring me and any little bit of success that I've had. She is one of the mentors that I had in my life. And so now that I've built her head up way big, I want to introduce to you Wynette Jameson. Ms. J, thank you so much for being here today.
it's my honor and my pleasure, Tom. You're a kid. You're my kid. So, you know,
Well,
I've been blessed.
you have always had a youthful enthusiasm for everything that you do, and you did it when you taught, you did it when you mentored people. See, to me, you were more than a teacher, you were a friend, and that really built such strong relationships that I know you had for so many years that we're going to talk about. But I want to throw it to you and kind of let you start out and introduce yourself. Let us know where you grew up, where you went to school, how you kind of got involved with what you did. So take it
We
away.
Okie dokie. Well, you say that, and one of my first experiences that really got me in the gut was when my brother died. He, I was a freshman in college, and he and my cousin had gone motorcycle riding up here in out in Humble, and I still lived in the valley. I grew up in Pharr, Pharr,
Oh, okay.
and I hadn't moved up here yet. I hadn't moved to the Houston area yet, but I got a telephone call, 4th of July, 1973, that my brother was the first fatality of July 4th. And nobody still knows what happened. My cousin was on the back of the motorcycle and he was injured but not killed. And they both had on their helmets. So I don't know. I know that what bothered me so much was at the funeral. This was in the barbaric days of funerals where you got there at 9 o'clock in the morning, you stayed there till 9 o'clock at night, walking people back and forth to the coffin. My parents couldn't do it. They just were like,
Well,
no.
yeah. And now, was your brother older than you or younger than you?
He was 4 years younger.
4 years younger. Okay.
Yeah.
Your only sibling?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So when that happened, I know it had an impact on your life because I heard you through the years mention it, not like dwelling on it, but mentioning it through the years that he had an impact on you. Tell me a little bit about how that affected your mindset about where you went from there.
Well, it was such a shock. Although the beginning, I do this when I have a student who loses somebody very close to them. I usually write a letter and I tell them all my experiences with death over the years and how I got over it. Through prayer and through just believing and going the next step. You have to go that next step, even though you don't want to. You have to.
You're absolutely right. God directs us to keep going, and we don't always understand here what the reason is for things. You won't understand till you get to heaven why your brother was taken from you. But it happened, and we know he's in a better place. But selfishly, we wish he was still here, just like I wish my mom was still here. I understand that, and it's that heartache that you have that sometimes builds things to build your character a little bit and get you and help you go forward. So I know that had this dramatic impact on you. You mentioned other deaths in your life. And we all have had to deal with death in some way, shape, or form. I don't know if you remember my senior year in high school, we had several suicides in our district.
Oh, yeah.
In fact, as my role as news editor for the High Life, I remember getting a call from Good Morning America wanting to
Mhm.
interview me to talk about it. And I turned it down because I
Right.
did not want to exacerbate the situation. I felt they were
Exactly.
going to exploit it a little bit because there was a lot of misinformation going around about it. But that was,
Boy, there
go ahead.
surely was. No, there surely was.
Yes, and it was a scary time for all of us, but it was a sad time, but it certainly molded us, even more so at that young age, and as a teacher, I can only imagine. Um, one of the things that you inspired me to do later in life. Now, I was a banker for 32 years, but I became a teacher, late in my life here and, did it for the last 6 years, and, I just got an email from some of the first kids that I taught are just now graduating, and,
Oh,
I just got an email from one that just graduated and all the great things are going on in her life and such, and so I understand that impact that you have, and you sometimes don't even realize it while it's happening.
right.
You see it grow later. But let's go back to that fateful day, that July 4th, back in '73. Um, what was your initial reaction? I mean, shock or scared or what?
All of that.
All of
It
it?
was all of that. Yes, it was, I was like, "No, he can't be dead. He's my brother and he's just a baby," you know?
Yeah.
And I went up, went to the funeral, did all that. One of my friends walked me to the coffin every time, because my parents couldn't. And I was disturbed, little teeny things that bother you. He parted his hair on this side, and because there was a big
Gash.
injury there, whatever, they had moved his hair and I told him, "Can't you fix that?" And they were like, "No, ma'am, you really wouldn't want us to," or whatever. But teeny things like that would get to you, you were just like, "Well, why can't you fix it?"
So so you mentioned you were in college at the time. You were a freshman in college at the time.
Right.
So he would have been about a freshman or a sophomore in high school. Is that right?
He was 4 years younger, so he was yeah, that's right, was he already in high yeah, he was, yeah, you're
So
right.
so at that point, it sounds like you kind of became the rock or the glue that held your family together because it was probably very difficult on your parents.
Definitely.
And so that's a lot of responsibility and a lot of weight to carry for a young woman. Tell us about your struggles going through that.
Well, yeah, I will tell you that when I walked into their house that day coming from the airport, there was a whiteboard in the kitchen, and my brother had written, "I love you, Ma," and she hated for us to call her Ma, so of course we did. Uh,
Typical
and
kids,
she
right?
should have. We said you should have never told us that.
Oh,
And so he had put up that up there, and that's the first thing I saw, you know, a- and I just took my breath away, that did he know? Did he, back then, like what we're doing right now would have cost us $10,000
oh my
if we
gosh.
could, if we had had the technology. Would That's how much. So we didn't make many long distance phone calls.
Right, right. Oh, I believe me, I remember being in college and my now wife, was going to the University of Texas, and I was in Lubbock at Texas Tech. I had some unbelievable phone bills
Exactly.
because we didn't have the
So
cell phones and all the technology that we have now. In fact, your teaching was the first interaction I had with really a computer. You had a Mac for us.
mhm.
You were kind of cutting edge at the time for our because we had a physical paper. I know everything now is online and all that, but we actually had a physical high life paper,
And
and
we did until I left.
well, good. I'm glad. That's cool because I still love print media. We don't get to see it too often, but I do love it,
Right,
because this has taken its place. This kind of stuff has taken its place, and there's good and bad with that. But
right.
all technology is that way. There's no doubt. But so you had this traumatic accident happen in your life. How do you think it guided you to have the drive that you had to get in to what you did?
You know, that's a real interesting question because I was at the age when I decided, well, I need money. I'm gonna, I'm gonna go into a profession and get some money. But first, I want to teach, and so I did that down in the valley for 3.5 years, and then I just decided, this is
What did
really
you
not for
teach?
me.
What subject did you teach?
I taught English and journalism.
Okay, okay, I can see that. Awesome.
And so yeah, and so, I did that, and then one of my cousins said, "Hey, when it come on up here to Houston, I work at Monsanto, and guess how much I make an hour?"
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so I was like, that sounds interesting." So I moved to Houston for the money and went to work out at Shell. They hired 30 people out of 1,500 applicants, so I felt kinda good about that.
Well, you absolutely should. Absolutely should. They were lucky.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. But I decided after about 3 years it was not for me. I missed the kids so much. It wasn't, the job was okay if you like pouring. I worked at the lab, and I poured acid into this and poured this kind of and did testing of chemicals. Whoopee!
Yeah.
But boy, did I make a lot of money then
I
for that.
understand. Having been a banker for 32 years, if you'd have told me when I was in high school that I was going to be a banker, I would have called you a liar.
Uh-huh.
That was not in my cards. I didn't think, but somehow fate put me there, and I'm grateful. It gave me the money to get my kids grown and have their families and get Cindy and I a nice life. But it's different now, and I'm grateful that I went to teaching. I don't know if I ever told you this. My grandmother taught for 42 years,
Wow.
and she
That's
taught
the same. We're the same then. I did too.
and she taught in the rough side of San Antonio. She
Wow.
wanted to teach there because she felt like she made a difference, and she was ESL teacher before there was ESL. It,
Right.
it wasn't called ESL. She took a lot of these immigrant children and taught them English and how to assimilate into. And when she passed away, there were just scores and scores of students that came to her funeral that were touched by her life. Everything from janitors to presidents of companies, I know she was proud of every one of them.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I taught that was one thing I did like about the valley too. I taught migrants,
yes, yes. So,
and I loved it.
yeah, my first 2 years I taught in the Aldine area, and I had a lot of very poor students, very, students that needed a lot of love, needed a lot of help.
Yeah.
And, I've really felt like I made a difference, and I know that's one of the things that drew you back into teaching. And, how did you kinda decide on journalism as your specialty because you're so good at it?
Oh, well, bless you. I just I don't know, I saw what was going on, that was about the time of Richard Nixon and all of that was going on, and, there was Woodward and Bernstein, and look what they did, they brought down the President of the United States of America. That was unheard of, but they had that kind of not power, but they were cleaning up a mess.
Well, it
Get
was an impact that digging up the truth will find for you, you
Yeah,
know? And one of the things that it's interesting you bring up Woodward and Bernstein because I feel like a lot of journalists nowadays do it for the wrong reasons, and it's all
ex
about sensationalism, and it's all about, and on both sides of the aisle. I don't wanna get political, but, on both sides of the aisle, and it drives me insane. It's gotten to where I can't hardly even watch the news anymore because it doesn't matter if you're watching CNN or Fox or any of the aforementioned, they all have this unbelievable bias and slant that I know when you taught, that was the furthest thing that you wanted. You wanted the facts. And
Mhm,
unless it was an editorial, you kept your own opinion out of it. You
right.
just reported the facts. And you were so good and grilled that into our heads so well that I'm disappointed with the numbers of journalists that are out there nowadays. Now there are some good ones, don't get me wrong, but for every one good one, I think there's 20 that are horrible now. And it didn't used
I
to be
agree.
that way. You know, the days of Cronkite and people like that are gone, you know? I don't think they're around anymore. What's your thoughts on that, just out of curiosity?
Well, that it is funny that you say that because one of my heroes of journalism, or sheroes, is Christiane Amanpour.
Yes, I knew that. I was gonna actually bring that up.
She is something else. She sticks with it. When she took over ABC News show on Sunday mornings, that used to be so good, but our country didn't mesh with her because she was about the real news, and they didn't like what she talked about, and that she told the truth, and that, this kind of stuff. But I have a picture from a newspaper article of she and I together at a mm,
Conference or something?
yeah, well, yeah, that whole Dan Eldon branch is a whole 'nother story, but I met her through Kathy Eldon, who
Okay.
was Dan Eldon's mother. He was a journalist who was stoned to death in Somalia, um, and, that has changed that changed a lot of my students' lives too. They said learning about him and how he fought for the truth and how he loved children, he and his sister and that talk about it being a big story. I thought, "Oh, well, we got a little postcard in the mail as a teacher that said there's gonna be this movie on TBS, you need to see it." And, it was Amy, his sister, who was 4 years older no, 4 years younger, so she would have been like my brother. She, was doing a video called "Dying to Tell the Story." And it was about her brother, but she talked to photojournalists and print journalists and so TV journalists from all over. And it was brilliant, you know. And so my kids are like, his story, Ms. J, and his work, I have posters in my house that he did, paintings and whatever. He was photoshopped before there was even a computer out there he could use,
Right.
you know. And he did some amazing things, and his mom too, and, actually got to stay in their house in Malibu a few years ago, uh, but, that's a whole nother they escaped the fires this past year. They were the last houses in Malibu. They're the only ones that saved that were on the beach, and it was because a neurosurgeon in the 4th house, because they are on the first 3, he stayed there with a hose, and he watered down 3 houses in the Dan Eldon Center right there as you enter Malibu at the on the PCH, and every kid who's gone to LA, I've told them to go talk to the Dan Eldon's, center and talk to Kathy because she is such a brilliant woman and has done so much to help so many. And
Unbelievable,
it
unbelievable.
is. It
So,
is.
I mean, you think about all of the lives that touched your life and guided it, and we touched briefly on the faith aspect of it and how you have to just maintain and keep going forward and know that God is there to help you through it, whatever it may be, however hard it may be. Um, but let's talk for a minute about all the lives you touched because Miss J, of all the teachers that I had throughout the years, and I had a bunch. I'll tell you another one that you probably remember that also touched me. I was on the debate team, and Miss Jolly was one of my favorites, and she was hard on me. She was hard on,
Uh-huh.
but I adored her because she always pushed me to get better and better and better. I had a scholarship to debate at Texas Tech, and I
Uh-huh.
owe that to her.
Yeah.
And, I know you remember, Valerie, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
she's
She
passed
was a
away now.
great teacher. She did lung cancer. She had lung cancer.
Yeah, yeah, well, she smoked like a chimney, but yes. Uh,
Yeah, I was gonna say,
I I
that's
I
when I
remember that
used to
too, let me tell you, it
yeah.
was a different era, it was a different
Yeah,
era,
it was,
but,
it was.
yeah, she couldn't go very long without smoking a cigarette, I know.
Yeah, yeah.
But she was a pistol, but she was a mentor just as you were to me, and I was so fortunate to have 2 forces like I'll tell you another one that was, at Creek also was Miss Terlika. I don't know if you remember Kelly Terlika. She was
I
a
do.
government teacher, and so
Uh-huh.
I had these 3 spheres of influence that, were just amazing to me, and I was so blessed to have that because every day in my life, I sit back and I think, well, that was a lesson Miss J taught me. Well, that was a lesson Miss Jolly taught me. Well, that was a lesson Miss Terliga taught me. And, it's so cool. But I'm just one of thousands that you had. Uh, Tell me about some of the success stories of some of the kids that you taught.
Well, there's just so many. You, for one, I mean, come on, look at you. You've done, I mean, and you haven't even touched on a third of what all you've done. Uh,
I'm
and
I'm
and
blessed.
yeah, that's how I feel. I am blessed, I look back and when I walked out of those doors for the last time, it was like, wow, I'm never coming back here because it was during COVID and uh circumstances had just clicked that it was just time.
Right.
Uh, I
You
won't
got
get
out when
in.
I got in.
Well, it's not a good time now to teach journalism. In fact, I
It's
don't know that you can.
Yeah, I obviously didn't teach journalism, but I passed all 4 cores, so I taught a little English, I taught a little, science, I mainly taught history, and I taught math 1 year, so I did a little bit of everything, and then I coached sports, mainly girls' athletics, but I coached football also, and so I touched
And
a lot of
coaches
lives.
yeah, they have so much influence.
Yes, and it's so cool, when you see these kids have success, and when you see saying the fruits of your labor sounds wrong, but the result of your influence and how it affects all of these kids in so many different ways and how they go on to such amazing things and do amazing things. Uh, I'm biased. I think that class of '85 that we had one hell of a class. Let me tell you.
Yeah, that's for sure. There
And I
is
know
no doubt.
that was like your second or third year at Creek. Is that correct?
Yeah, I started in 81, 82, I
Okay,
think.
okay. So 3rd or 4th year or something like that, but,
Yeah.
that was amazing. So I gotta talk about 2 other things with you. 1, you and I share a passion for our animals. and I want you to tell me about your doggies.
Wow. They have been a saving grace to me as well. You know, I started out with my first Boston I got was after a long term relationship broke up. And I thought, well, he was such a good guy that I really need to replace him with a dog. Because dogs are, good guys too. And so at that time, there was no such thing as rescue. Nobody had ever heard of it. And I actually got my first one, whose name was Cagney for Cagney and Lacey, uh, from a backyard breeder out in Humble. And she was so good, she said, "Come in the house," and there were, like, 6 or 7 puppies, she said, "Sit down." She said, "Okay." She let them out of their little crate, they came running to me, and she said, "Just stay there. The one that sticks with you when you stand up." Exactly, and that's what happened, and
And
that
that
was my
began
cat.
your love affair with the Bostons.
Exactly.
That's
And,
so
well, actually, I have a picture of me and my bassinet with my parents' Boston Terrier standing at the isn't that amazing? On my whole
Oh,
life.
that's so awesome. That's so
But
fantastic. Well, we love all animals. We're like a sanctuary here out in our country home now. We have bird feeders that I feed all the wild birds. We
that's
have a
awesome.
we have a squirrel and raccoon feeder where they come and feed. Um, Rabbits come all the time, and then we have an affinity for dachshunds, like you have an affinity for
Yeah.
Boston. So we have our winged.
I saw what you just did.
Oh my gosh, we are sans sleep right now. We don't get much. We don't get much sleep right now. They are a handful. It's like having two toddlers. It sure is.
Uh,
But we felt the need to get these two pups. To replace the void from our last buddy that was with us for 16 years, and
yeah.
you know, I'll say something about Jackson because I haven't gotten to talk about him much. But when I was going through all of my surgeries and was essentially blind for about a month and a half, and I couldn't, I was just in darkness almost. I mean, I could see a little bit, but I had
Mhm.
no balance, no depth perception, nothing. Uh,
Yeah.
and Cindy had to go to work, and so she works at the hospital, and she was working these 12-hour shifts and long days, and I had to retire from the teaching, and I was just sitting at home, and Jackson was not doing well health-wise. But I really feel like he hung on to get me through it because he was
Yeah.
by my side. He was
Yep.
by my side that entire time, and I thank you, God, for giving him to me. I'm about to cry because
I understand.
he was so wonderful to me. And, once I was out of the clear, I felt like he kinda was like, "Okay, I'm gonna go now," and he kinda just faded off at that point, and I'm so grateful that he was there to get me through it, and,
Yep.
uh,
They know.
so it took us about 6 months, but we gotta fill that void again, so
It does take a while, yeah, before you can do that again, I know.
so we have done that, and you saw our little puppies.
Mhm.
Yeah, now we share another common interest. You're a Houston Astros fan.
Oh, yeah.
Tell us the story how you became a Houston Astros fan.
Well, I just was never a big sportsy person. I played tennis in high school, but, and my dad wanted me to be a professional because that was like the height of Billie Jean King, and she was
Yes,
so good. And he said, "Look, you can make lots of money." I'm like, "Yeah, Dad, but you have to be good."
you really did.
Yeah, that's not me, but thank you for the offer. Uh, but I'm an Astros fan because that Hurricane Harvey scared the poo out of me.
Yes.
I have never I mean, I've had floods here where I have 4 steps to get in. Well, I don't right now, I have a ramp. but that's a whole 'nother story.
Yeah,
But, 4 steps, very steep steps, right? Well, it's gotten to where it's come up over the 3rd step,
right.
and it's been 16 inches in the garage. It's gotten into the bottom of the car, but didn't, and in different hurricanes and just tropical storms. I'd say Allison was one of the worst.
Allison was bad, Claudette was bad. If you remember Claudette back in the late
Yes.
70s, that was a really bad one for where we lived in the area.
Right.
It
Yeah,
was
we had Beulah, and that was bad. It spawned the most tornadoes. It came in, tornadoed all the way down to our house, went up to Falfurious,
yeah.
came back down, twirled around.
Yeah, yeah, and Carla
But that's
went
kind
all the
of
way up to Nebraska. I think it cut all the way through, yeah.
oh yeah, I've watched a documentary on weather the other day, and they were talking about, some hurricane that went all the way up to North Carolina and destroyed a whole lot of things.
Nuts, yeah. So
But
anyways, Harvey hit, so how did that make you an Astros fan?
because I didn't have a lot to watch, and I was depressed, and I was scared to death, and excuse me, and, I was in such a bad place. I was so worried about the dogs were terrified, even though they weren't my worst thunder, like Rory, thunder doesn't bother her at all, but, it was just a horrible time, and I watched my friends who had to leave their houses and, the water and got in their houses, and I felt so bad for them and my students, and what can you do, So I think we had some kind of, fundraising thing. We were always doing that kind of thing. A lot of times the principal would say, Wynette, you guys are taking the place of student council and all these other helping groups. And I said, well, we can't just sit here.
No, you gotta do something. You gotta do
That's right. Yeah, I don't care what it is, just do it. And because, well, that's a whole nother story about sending cards to Sri Lankan kids for their
just be kind.
tsun-
Just be kind.
tsunami. Well, I never thought, because I asked Amy Eldon, Dan's sister, I said, we want to do something. 200,000 people were killed. That's not like, your general amount of people who die in a
No, and
disaster.
and and it's so interesting when you think about, how different people view horrific tragedies, I think Stalin famously said, "One death is tragic, but hundreds of thousands is a statistic."
Yeah,
And
you're right.
many people have that attitude, I think, and
Said
it's
that about the hurricane in Galveston, the
oh
19
gosh, yeah,
yeah,
1900 hurricane,
w
yes, yes, that
yeah,
was awful, awful, over 5,000 people died, so
right.
uh, but still, okay, so you had nothing to do, and so you're watching, the Astros make their historic run in 2017.
Exactly, and that was amazing to me, and I fell in love, I'm sure he feels the same, we just haven't met yet, with Jose Altuve. We're the same
Yeah,
height, we're
yeah.
perfect for one another. I'm sure that his wife wouldn't mind at all. Uh But I did, I fell in love with them, and then I also became had a love affair with the Astros, and I started a hate affair with another team here in Texas because of what they did during Harvey.
Okay,
They
you prob
wouldn't let us practice or do anything
the
in
Rangers?
yes, we had to go to Florida, I
Yeah, we
think.
played the games in Florida, I think, yeah,
That was just so rotten. That's
yeah,
not even sportsmanlike in any way, shape, or form.
no, no. Sports is a microcosm of society. Being a sociology major, I've always looked at it from that perspective, and I think Karl Marx said that religion's the opiate of the people, but I think in today's day and age, I think it's more sports is the opiate of the people.
There you go, yeah.
So,
Well, yeah, there was a big sporty thing going on last night.
oh,
I hear.
the World Cup.
Well, that one, but there was another one I hear up north somewhere on that, somebody in power. had his own birthday party
Out at,
thing.
the Trump UFC fight.
Y
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, I think I is that a sport? I don't know. I
I yeah, I'm not a UFC fan, so I'm not gonna go there, but, uh,
okay. That's so nice
so
and polite, Tom. I'm
there's
very proud of you.
there are there are so many, wonderful athletes, and there's so many horrible ones out there too, and there's so many stories. I also do sports broadcast too. I don't know if you're aware of that, but I do
Okay.
one with some journalist friends of mine that, I'm the newbie on the group. I have 30 years experience. They all have 50 and 60 years experience. We have like 250 or 300 years of experience as we sit at our round table that we try
That's
to do
awesome.
once a week, and we just talk about everything under the sun. So,
Yeah,
we have a blast with that, and so I keep my touch with the sports in that regards. Uh,
that's awesome.
but all of that is due to you. All of that is but really you set that passion. You set that at a young age, and you taught the right way to do it. You taught the right way to present thoughts, um, and make sense of how you articulate yourself and make sense of how you present yourself, and not just with the written word. You did it more with the written word, obviously. Ms. Jolly helped me with the spoken word, and
Mhm.
Ms. Trelika gave me concepts from a government standpoint. So I mean, it was just incredible. It was like the perfect storm, if you will, that I just love and appreciate so much. And if you can believe it, we have been talking almost 40 minutes. I usually keep these to 30 minutes. Um,
Oopsie.
it's awesome. It's awesome. And I could talk for another hour with you, but I try to be true to what I tell my guests. Maybe I'll have you back again another time. But
Now that I figured it out.
it worked out on your phone, so
Uh-huh.
that's cool. Um,
Mhm.
I'm gonna wrap it up here, and I want you to hang on. So
Okay.
I'm gonna wrap it up, and we'll go from there. If you
Okay.
like hearing uplifting stories of overcoming challenges in life, click the like and subscribe button. It's right below. Perhaps you have a story of your own to share: an accident, sudden loss, PTSD, alcohol, drug abuse, a natural disaster, illnesses, deaths, and you would like to share that journey of overcoming. Please contact me again at the email shown below. It'll magically appear, I promise. For consideration for a future podcast interview, I rely on viewers like you to share their stories. I have wonderful guests like Ms. J here that came from my own life, but I also have had a plethora of guests from around the world that have shared their stories and reached out. Thanks again to TradingCardsMarketplace.com for their continued sponsorship to bring these great stories to all of us. TradingCardsMarketplace.com. Discover, connect, collect. Awaken the collector in you. I want to thank everyone out there, especially my family, our military, veterans, and first responders who put their lives on the line every day. But please don't forget our teachers and medical professionals who all make the world better, one person at a time. Most of all, thank God for all the blessings in our world. We need to just make sure that we concentrate on those blessings every single day. Until next time, my friends, you know what I'm going to say. Carpe diem, seize the day.